Hello, and thank you for logging in to view this webinar on our Dual Language Immersion School Theory of Change Logic Model. I'm Jackie Mendez, a qualitative researcher at Apt Associates. Prior to working in the field of research, I spent several years working directly with children and families from diverse backgrounds in formal and informal education settings. Currently, I'm the Apt team lead on the Dual Language Immersion Implementation Study, which will describe how dual language instruction is implemented in New Mexico's charter schools. This is a sub-study of the lottery study of oversubscribed charter schools in New Mexico. The logic model you're about to see was created as part of the New Mexico Charter School and Dual Language Immersion Study with support from Arnold Ventures. It explains the theory of change behind a dual language immersion school, detailing a hypothesis for why dual language immersion schools are able to improve outcomes for school staff, families, and students in a variety of areas. Our study is testing this hypothesis in dual language immersion charter schools in New Mexico. We expect to release a policy brief and report on our findings in spring 2021. We also look forward to re-engaging with you then about this study. We greatly appreciate all feedback you're willing to provide on this logic model. Please click on the survey link to provide feedback. If you have any questions about this logic model or our study, you can reach the study team at the email address or phone number listed here. Now I'll hand it over to one of our amazing partners, Michael Rodriguez, to introduce himself and walk us through this theory of change logic model.
My name is Michael Rodriguez, and I'm the Director of Operations for Dual Language Education of New Mexico. I've been in education for 23 years, and for 15 of those years, I've had the opportunity to serve as a site administrator, helping with the startup of 3 local dual language programs. In my current role with the organization, I oversee the program leadership and development offerings, where I'm able to work with schools and districts around the country to either start new programs or recommit to the ideals that lead to sustainability. So in the construction of our dual language logic model, we started with our theory of change. And what that basically does is outline how and why certain activities and conditions within effective programs lead to change, and how we can accomplish what existing research has really proven to be possible in terms of student outcomes. What we want to do here is to demonstrate for you how the logic model is organized into critical, interwoven, and overlapping components that work together to set the stage for the outcomes. So you'll see in the first 2 areas are the inputs and the precursors. To get a program off the ground, it's really important that the founders have the key guiding documents and resources in place, as well as identifying, bringing the actors and the key stakeholders of the program together to get things moving. In the next section, core activities and facilitators, it begins to detail the various actions, tools, and processes that the stakeholders engage in order to put things into motion at the program level. And in the last section, we begin to outline the different outcomes that programs can expect to see when following this process. So, as dual language advocates for quality programs, we desire for this document to really be a guiding resource for people who want to start new programs, as well as a reflective tool for leaders of existing programs. It is aligned with the guiding principles for dual language education. So once you've identified an area of focus from our logic model, the guiding principles really is the place that gives you the research best practice and really lets you unpack and self-assess and monitor your program's progress. To better explain the logic model, we'd like to clarify and highlight some of the details for you. For students to achieve the desired outcomes, all aspects of it must be well planned for and well executed. To visually demonstrate this, we've included this red line that runs across all components, linking it together. At the core of our logic model are 2 large and interconnected gears, which represent the foundational beliefs, supports, and common understandings that make it possible to even think of achieving our long-term outcomes. As you can see in the top gear, it demonstrates how a program's mission is central to its success and must include a plan for content and literacy instruction to take place in both program languages. To make this happen, programs must follow the 3 goals of dual language as outlined in the guiding principles, which are having an expectation of high academic achievement in both program languages meaning that students are still expected to meet all the state and local standards as their English counterparts and be able to do so by learning that content in 2 languages. The second is having a focus on bilingualism and biliteracy so students can reach high levels of proficiency in both languages. And third, requiring that sociocultural competence, which is the validation of identity and the celebration and inclusion of cultures, is woven into the curriculum and activities of the program and are central to the students' learning. And the reason that the third point is so important is because, as you can see in the second gear, when you are purposefully and intentionally engaged in the teaching and learning of language in an authentic way, it can never be separated from culture. And to have a program that values the culture, you must go beyond buy-in and develop ownership of the program at the school, home, and community levels. To give you some more specifics of each of the components, I will now turn it over to our good friend, Dr. Liz Howard.
Hi, I'm Liz Howard. I'm an associate professor of bilingual education at the University of Connecticut, and I've been working in the field of dual language education for the past 30 years as a researcher, teacher, parent, and provider of technical assistance. I'm also the lead author of the Guiding Principles for Dual Language Education, which served as a point of departure for this logic model. We look forward to your feedback. The first part of the logic model are the inputs, found in the purple column on the left-hand side of the logic model. Once again, the inputs represent the resources that are needed to get the program up and running. Broadly speaking, the vision and goals of the dual language program that are established by the founders of the school and that ensure that the school is focused on academic achievement, bilingualism and biliteracy, and sociocultural competence are a core input. More specifically, there are a number of resources that need to be in place to make sure that this vision is realized. Specifically, a language allocation plan by grade level that ensures that the program model expectations are being met and takes into consideration specials and resource time as well as classroom instructional time is important. Next, the selection of enriched curriculum materials for bilingual learners that promote the equal status of both program languages, appreciation for multicultural and linguistic diversity, especially the diversity that exists in the community and that is spoken by students and their families, and cultural responsiveness and materials that are representative of all students. Third, it's important to make sure that there is both vertical and horizontal curriculum alignment in both languages, so that there's a clear articulation from one grade level to the next and across curricular materials and languages within each grade level. Next, it's important to make sure that there's a scope and sequence of curriculum in both languages so that it's clear what is being taught and in what order. And finally, to go along with the linguistically and culturally responsive curricular materials and instructional approaches, it's important to make sure that there's a selection of culturally and linguistically appropriate assessment measures. The core stakeholders in a dual language program include the principal and staff, the teachers, the students, the families, and the community members. And each one of these stakeholder groups is represented by a horizontal bar in the logic model showing the precursors, core activities and facilitators, and outcomes for each group. Ideally, all representatives of all of these groups are involved in the creation of the vision and goals as part of the inputs of the program. The precursors are the action steps that have to take place to get the program off the ground, and these are found in the green column in the middle of the logic model. There are 3 main precursors that we've identified. First, for teachers and principals and staff, it's important to recruit credentialed teachers and dual language teachers and staff to get the program mobilized and running. Additionally, for families and students, it's important to enroll and assign students and families with varied language backgrounds and interests in the program. This may include a lottery in some places, or it may simply be by family interest. And finally, straddling the family and community stakeholder groups, it's important to engage families and community members as strategic partners to make sure that they're included in the development of the program. The orange column in the logic model represents the core activities and facilitators, which are the key actions and processes that are carried out to meet the objectives that are stated in the final column of the logic model. You can notice on this column, as in other columns, that some of the boxes are outlined in the darker shade of the color and others are not. The boxes that are outlined are straddling two or more groups of stakeholders, whereas those that are not are referring only to a single group of stakeholders in that row that corresponds to that group. So looking first at the principals and staff column and the principals and staff row and the teachers row, we see that there are three core activities and facilitators that these two stakeholder groups share. The first is professional development, and specifically professional development on equity and social justice, language acquisition, assessment, curriculum development, and pedagogical strategies specific to dual language and advocacy. In addition, dual language networking is important to meet and get to know other dual language educators, professional organizations that support the development of dual language programs, and other organizations and entities that can help support the development of the program. And finally, the collection, analysis, and reporting of assessment measures in both languages is an important activity carried out by both of those subgroups. Additionally, for this teacher subgroup in particular, identifying, modifying, or creating curricular materials as needed and implementing dual language pedagogical strategies are important activities to ensure that the outcomes are reached. For the student group, the core activities include carrying out and participating in the activities and instructional materials designed to promote bilingualism and biliteracy, sociocultural competence, and academic achievement. And then finally, for families and community members, there's training in core features and benefits of dual language, as well as dual language advocacy, and school, home, community engagement and outreach, which can include learning opportunities and community connections. The final component of the logic model are the outcomes, found in the blue column on the far right. There are 4 different levels of outcomes, depending upon the amount of time that is anticipated for them to be attained: proximal, short-term, medium-term, and long-term. The proximal outcomes are those that are likely to be attained first, and they largely relate to higher expectations shared by the principal, staff, and teachers, as well as by students and their families. In addition, shared responsibility for instruction and grouping among the teachers and the presence of family and community members in the schools are all proximal outcomes that are desired through dual language education. Moving next to the short-term outcomes, they include principal and staff satisfaction and teacher satisfaction. For the teachers, also increased instruction using dual language pedagogical strategies. For the students, you're starting to see language and literacy development in both languages, as well as the development of metalinguistic awareness. For families, it's important to see family engagement via homeschool connections, and straddling the family and community stakeholder groups, a sense of belonging in the school and community, and the language equity within the school. Moving into the medium-term outcomes, it would be helpful to see principal and staff retention, as well as teacher retention in the teacher stakeholder group, teacher leadership development, and teacher dual language advocacy skills as well for teachers. For students, you'd like to be seeing the use of both languages outside of school as well as within the school, academic achievement across the content areas, and multicultural appreciation and awareness of power dynamics of various groups. For families, a medium-term outcome includes expanded views of culture and language and dual language advocacy skills. And finally, for community members, helpful referrals to community agencies are a medium-term outcome. And then finally, looking to the ultimate long-term outcomes of these programs, there are 3 core long-term outcomes. The first, straddling principal, staff, and teachers, is a commitment to school-wide shared vision and goals. For the students, you see demonstrated success in academic achievement, bilingualism, biliteracy, and sociocultural competence, the 3 core goals of the program. And for families and community members, a shift in broader perceptions of culture and language use and the benefits of bilingualism.
We're really looking forward to your feedback on the logic model to see how well we captured the theory of change. If you need the link to the survey, please email us at our study address, or you can contact our New Mexico-based project director, Rachel McCormick, at the number listed on the slide. Thank you and take care.